if you're missing... Oh, pause it. Sorry. If you're missing...
We'll do that again.
If you're missing what? You're missing out? Sorry.
If you miss it, you miss out.
If you miss it, you miss out. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
I can't remember this now. Okay. Hi, Neil Sean here on your entertainment news. I've got a wonderful special guest for you today. None other than the brilliant Tom Parker Bowles, who tells us all about his latest book. But remember though, Tom...
If you miss it, you're missing out.
Don't miss Tom today on your entertainment news. That's a take. Can we take a... Growing up, was your, mum and dad, were they foodies or were you just like normal food? And how did this all prick your conscience?
Oh, very much. My mother cooked, before all this. She was, a mother in the country. My father was in London in the week. And we were at boarding school, a lot of it, but she would cook for us. She would cook breakfast, lunch and dinner. And having done it for my children, it's not the fun of a long, slow Saturday afternoon cook with the football and glass of wine. It's, oh, God, I don't like this, I don't like that. Go, bloody eat it.
Yeah. And we all do, don't we?
Yes, of course, and it's the same. But she was a good cook, and my father was a good gardener and would shoot and fish, and it always very much that we'd eat what he fished or shot. So it was very. So we were having local, organic, seasonal food before it was trendy, and all we wanted to do was go to Sainsbury's and have Ice Magic and Monster Munch and all the stuff that we absolutely. Yeah. So we did have this basis in English food, and then once a year we'd go off to Italy with our grandparents to the south of Italy. So we knew about Italian food, and our grandmother and mother would take us out in London when we came up to Italian restaurants. But I'm a chili addict, and I hadn't tasted Indian food until I was 13. It was all... If you grew up in the countries...
I don't think our generation did.
No.
I was saying this to a friend the other day that I bypassed, because we're not that far removed.
Yeah.
I bypassed all the KFC, the McDonald's, everything, because we lived in a small place, so we didn't have that.
We had none of that. I mean, we didn't go out to eat in the country.
Yes.
I mean, you went to the Chippy, which we'll talk about later. But it was very much that we might have gone to a Wimpy in Swindon.
Yeah. That was a treat, though.
Oh, God, that was a birthday treat.
Yeah, I love Wimpy.
Yeah, Wimpy, I did like Wimpy, the badges, and McDonald's wasn't around. It just wasn't part. And now the kids, my kids who are sort of 17 and 14 now, but they don't understand life before Deliveroo.
Yes.
What did you do? Well, we cooked. We went to the shop, and shops closed at 6. There's only this 24 hours, I suppose in London there might have been. But
does that upset you in a way, Tom? Because I think that when I was at school, we were a very basic school, but we had a thing called home economics.
Yeah.
And I learnt in there how to make shepherd's pie, Sunday roast, boil an egg, very basic stuff. But I was so grateful that when I left home, I could make something that I remembered from those lessons, and you don't see that now. And what I find with younger kids is, as you say, it's an app, it's a delivery, and that's a normal way. I also think that's a problem with healthy eating, with diet, with whatever. Don't want to lecture, but you do kind of think we've lost that, and I think it's going to get worse, personally.
Well, it is that, but I understand about serious allergies. If you have a serious nut allergy, that can be fatal. If you are, you have you're celiac. These are very serious conditions. But people seem to mix up. Oh, I'm allergic to, and I don't like, or it will make me fat.
Yeah.
Or when we were kids, you ate what you had on the plate. That was it.
What
there was no choice. Yes, you wouldn't get pudding if you didn't have your way. Yeah. And it's it can be. There's so much choice now, and we've always instilled in the kids to just to a bit of respect and please and thank you, obviously. But everyone has everything everywhere. You go through Deliveroo, and I'm often like, because I try not to do it too much, but when you've done a hard day.
Oh, yeah.
And there's so much to choose from.
Yes.
I basically give up and just go to the shop and buy some baked beans and some bread.
No, it's true, actually. That's what I was saying. You see, it's interesting as we're in this season that I remember you didn't see things like satsumas, tangerines until this time of year.
No.
And, dates and nuts and all that sort of stuff. Everything, a turkey sandwich you can buy any time.
Yeah.
Turkey was really a privilege. I don't mean violins and money, but it just came out at that time, and that's when you had it. Seasonal cooking and food seems to have dropped off, doesn't it? Because of the accessibility.
Well, you can get asparagus and tomatoes and stuff all the way around, and that's. I suppose it's sometimes I don't particularly want to eat strawberries in December because they don't taste as good as they taste from England. But then again, you do get a lot of chefs, especially in London and all across the country, who, very much are driven by season, or so what's in season. And their reason is that not some poncy thing, it's good. It's because it tastes nice. It doesn't need many It doesn't need far to be transported.
Yeah.
Whether it's forced rhubarb, you remember the
I love
forced
rhubarb,
rhubarb, and you know there was this wonderful triangle, the rhubarb triangle up in sort of Yorkshire, and a special train would come down. They'd force it in candlelight, and you hear it growing. But yeah, we still do have that, and it still is very easy. I mean, it's all too easy to say, go to the farmers market. Farmers markets would be very expensive.
Yeah.
But it's about
because they're a thing, aren't they? That's the thing.
They are. But you say, home economics. I think that learning to cook is as important as learning to write and to add up, maths.
Yeah.
Everyone should leave school with a basic knowledge of how to make a salad dressing, how to boil an egg, how to make a roast. Because that, then you don't need to go to all the fast food stuff.
Yeah.
And you've got whole generations growing up on that fast food. That's not good.
Now, we touched on this, fish and chips. Now, I like fish and chips in beer batter, I've got to be honest.
Yeah.
Because there's something about crispiness. Now, when I was at school, the thing I hated, Tom, was on a Friday we had fish and chips. And they always had the skin on the bottom.
Yeah.
And that just always made me feel really ill. Because,
fish skin is very sort of,
But you did a survey recently. You went round and tried them. And I know there's many more, so you don't want to pin you down. But where was your experience of the nicest for your palate? Where was that?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole north-south divide here.
Not here, love,
and especially even with Scotland, who, of course, claim the chipper down theirs. I do think that London is not the best place to have fish and chips because restaurant fish and chips are not fish and chips. They are fish and chips, but they're restaurant fish and chips at 22 quid.
And pubs don't do them that nice.
No, and that's what worries. These tourists come in, authentic British fish and chips, my arse. They're not at all. They're rubbish. They're £22 of rubbish.
Yeah.
You need to go to a place that has, and I think a lot of the place, there's a place, Shakey's up in just above Blackpool, I love very much.
Oh, yes.
There's the Anstruther fish shop up in Anstruther in Scotland. There's a fantastic place in, Aberdeen. But if you're lucky enough up north, to have a place that fewer people cook now in dripping, which is very much a northern thing, because it makes the chips taste so nice.
We used to have dripping sandwiches.
My father's favourite thing was bread and dripping, with a little bit of salt on it. Yeah. It was just lovely. And that's what just another version in a certain way.
Yeah.
Bone marrow and toast at St John is a sort of a take on that.
Yeah.
But fish and chips down, friends down in the West Country say, you can't beat it down in Devon. And the Seahorse is a friend of mine called Mitch Tonks. And he has a restaurant called the Seahorse, but he also has Rockfish, and it's a growing chain. It's all sustainable but delicious in a wonderful batter. Fish and chips really is, and it has to be wrapped up. And that smell when we were going home, and it was wrapped on your knee, and you have to have lots of salt and lots of vinegar. But I do think London's not a place to get fish and chips.
I totally agree, Tom. Now, a couple of quick questions that I wanted to ask. Don't worry, they're not too personal. On the Coronation, which I covered for American TV. I just thought it was a marvellous day. Two things really, right, for me, Tom. We're living in history.
Yes.
100 years down the line, somebody's going to look at those pictures, people lining, and say, who are those people? Like, we look at the Victorian era,
of course,
I just find that fascinating. When you were there, because you're there, what was it like for you on the opposite side? Could you feel all the it is love. I don't care what people say. It is love, and we respect them. But what's it like? Because for you, your memory is totally different to what mine is. We are,
of course.
Do you know what I mean?
It was. The first feeling. Obviously, this was a tradition, a ceremony that goes back to Byzantine times.
Yeah.
It really is ancient and very, very moving. And that moment where the king strips off and is just left with a white shirt. You really were.
Yeah.
Although it was kept from the screens. I think I had a slight view through a crack in the panel, and it was absolutely, it was breathtaking. It really was. It was history and the rest of it. But my main concern was the fact that my son was a page boy, along with my two nephews, my sister's sons, and my cousin Ben's son Arthur. And so, of course, you're willing them to get through it.
Yes.
So, and then also you're willing your mother to get through it, and of course the king as well. But the king will be fun. The king is always brilliant at these things. He there was never a question that there'd be any issue. I knew deep down my mother would be fine too. I was just praying that my son wouldn't pick his nose in front of 2 million people. Because they were at that point, they were 12 or 13.
Yeah.
And 12, I think they were 12. And it was a big thing, and they'd done the rehearsals. But, we were just, I was sitting next to my sister, and we'd just, willing them through.
Yeah.
And they were brilliant. But it was, so once that relief was over, that was amazing. Get it out of the way. And it was just, it sort of went somewhat in a blur. You know.
I was going to say, because as you say, it's a moment in history, and when I watch it back now, you kind of think, I remember that now.
Yeah.
But at the time, you're live or whatever, and you think, and they're asking you what's this, and you think, I don't know. Because you're like somebody on a horse, not quite sure, that sort of thing. But it was fascinating stuff, and I thought your mum did a terrific. I'm not just saying that, Tom. I think your mum's terrific. I've met her very briefly a couple of times. Terrific lady. But she's taken on a lot at a time when most people might think they might not be doing all of that. And I think we owe her a lot for that, because I don't mean this rudely, but, we're all getting on.
Oh, totally, yes. And she, she's incredibly hardworking, doesn't complain, just gets on. She has a very British attitude to it. And my sister and I, that's the thing we've always said. People can say what they want about her, but she was our mother, and she was a fantastic mother, and is a fantastic grandmother and mother. And, so we're always happy to defend her. And listen, it's never been easy. Things like this aren't, and things have changed. But
life moves on, though. I mean, one thing I want to touch on with your mum, which I think she's done a terrific thing, is the book club.
Yeah.
But were you a bookie when you were growing up? Because I was thinking that we went to an event that she was hosting, and she said she's got loads of books around, and she picks up, she can read like 7 at a time. And I thought, I'm like that.
Yeah.
People think you're a bit nuts when you say, I'm reading that biography, but I'm a bit bored now, so I'll go to this.
Oh, totally.
You know what I mean?
I've always thought
did she sort of instill that love of books and reading into you at an early age?
It was always, our grandfather, her father, was a great bibliophile, a great reader. He used to make up stories for Ben, my cousin, and I, called Bomb and 10. He always gave us books. And that was passed on. It was just so much part of our family. The one thing we were allowed to do when we went back to school, we were really lucky. There was never any limit on the books. So if we went to Waterstones in Bath, we could buy get whatever books you want, within reason. And we loved it. This was a treat for us. And we've always had our noses in books. My sister's the same. My whole family actually is the same. We love reading, and when we're on, when my mother would say, have you read this? Our tastes are very different. Thank God. That would be very odd if they were the same. But we share a love of certain books, and she'll, but mainly sort of thrillers and spy books. But she is, my grandfather's incredibly read. She's incredibly well read. She's always, we all feel naked without a book on the go. I can't go on an aeroplane or a train or a bus or a tube.
But it's good she's pushing that, because I do think, I know J.K. Rowling gets blasted on social media, but she opened the door for young kids to pick up a book again.
And that's
fabulous in my opinion, because up until that point, they'd been in there was the Kindle thing, a bit of a decline, and, not really that many people are interested, and you think, wow, the fact that when she mentions a book in the club and it sells or escalates, you think that's power. That's what we should be doing, So,
I hate snobs of any kind, but book snobs in particular. You shouldn't be reading that. No, you should read anything. It doesn't matter if you enjoy it. Read it, and it's. You think of the Rich and Judy book club with Amanda Ross a few years back, and that was incredible. The power of that. Yeah. Anything that gets people reading, because to read is to escape into different worlds. You're not just learning your vocabulary. It's so fundamental to life, reading, and I feel.
Well, it's like the Queen with Paddington, isn't it? How many kids have now discovered Paddington?
Yes.
All thanks to that, not just because she did a great. I thought it was terrific.
That was wonderful. Yeah.
But just the fact that a lot of generation wouldn't know Paddington. We did,
of course, that's
we
what
grew up with.
Yeah.
But they didn't, and you think, when you look at something like Prince Louis, you think he will discover that. So will kids of his age.
Yeah.
And they think, oh wow, he's been around how many years?
I know.
He used to be on TV when we were
at
school.
Yes, and these things all matter to read, and I think she's doing wonderful things, but. It's the writers. Everyone assumes that there's top 20, 30 writers who all brilliant and make a fortune, but actually the vast majority it's not. You're sat there, and it doesn't matter how great your book is. It's you have to get out. You've got to sell it, and that's as we're talking about our books. You have to go out unless it's even if you're a Jamie Oliver, or Rick Stein, or Gordon Ramsay, you're still going to have to do publicity to tell them they're out there. And but it's even more, to get these to be published in the first place is a real fight, and then to get out there and to get it sold, especially. I'm off, as I said, to Hatcher's, the bookshop now. Christmas Sun, and all the greats are there. I'm literally sitting at the bottom. The sort of William Boyds and Ben McIntyres and all the people I love reading. But they're all there. But it's a hard.
I know you're a busy man, so finally I want to ask the question. your book, as I say, it is terrific. Whatever you're looking for, this is a good Christmas present. But what I was fascinated to look at, Tom, was, when we think about food now and how things fall out of fashion.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, we used to have paste sandwiches, beef paste sandwiches.
Yeah, I remember Madison's
yeah,
paste,
and people now, I mentioned that to somebody the other day, and I thought, what did you discover in those menus that you thought, yeah, people wouldn't really eat that now? Was there something, a reoccurring theme that you thought that it might be healthy and it might be good, but it's just not what people see in their mindset now?
Well, I suppose the one obvious one that, excuse me, for obvious reasons, that are no recipes, no references, is that Victoria and Edward loved turtle soup.
Oh.
Now, these were green turtles from the Bahamas. They're highly endangered now. You'd never eat them in a million years.
What does that taste like?
Well, apparently it tastes like sort of a mix of chicken, because you put a lot of other meat in there. It'd be a very clear broth. But you had a leg of beef in there, and you had pork knuckles. So but the turtle was a very delicate, as usual, sort of chicken. But anyway, it had lots of booze in it. It was a very, very nice soup by the looks. Obviously, I wouldn't put a recipe in for that, because this isn't about eating endangered animals. That'd be awful. Yeah. A lot of things, and again, there's not really recipes in the book, but lots of things in jelly and aspic.
Yes.
Because that's something that was, do you remember in the 70s, a tomato ring or, So again, the recipes in the book are for us, and they're for cooking every day, your potatoes and your
You're right about the jelly thing, though. You forget about that.
You see, I love savoury jelly. I mean, whether it's in a pork pie or whether it's a jelly consomme, I like jellied. And so that was a very ornate sort of thing. So I talk about that in the little essays about different food, but I'm not going to start trying to get people to do, hogs, sort of boar's head in aspic. But aspic was another thing. It was a lot richer, the food then. A lot more cream, a lot more butter, probably a lot more salt.
But were we any more unhealthier, do you think?
I think we were probably healthier because we didn't snack. We were much more active. Even the aristocracy and the royal family, they were hunting and shooting and fishing and walking and doing all these outdoor pursuits.
Because it went promenading, didn't it? So
exactly, and there was a lot. People didn't eat. And if you look at the war, there was very few overweight people. Now I realise especially the Second World War, there was rationing. But I think now people eat. And I'm certainly one of the worst. Not you eat when you're not hungry. You just eat. You open the fridge, have a bit of cheese. I can't walk past the fridge.
No, I'm like that. Yeah.
I had to actually go to bed and just leave it. Otherwise, I just eat it all night. Some crackers and cheese. I think people did eat. They ate a lot more, but there was obviously a lot. There's far fewer processed foods.
Yes.
There weren't the sweets, although Queen Victoria had a very sweet tooth and she loved it. But they were all made by chefs, biscuits and fancies and the rest. I think. People on the whole, there weren't these trans fats, there weren't these ultra-processed foods.
And I think we ate it fresher.
Yes, you had to.
They took it out of the garden, even beans or whatever, or carrots, you washed them, you ate them.
Or you preserved them to get through the winter. But you didn't, there was no waste in those days. Yeah. Even at the top level here, with these dinners, all the best bits, they'd be eaten, there'd be nothing would be wasted at all, apart from, and that's a way to cook now. I think you shouldn't, if I have a roast chicken, you have roast chicken for dinner, then the next day you can have chicken sandwiches, the leftover bits, and you make it into a stock, and you've got, the basis of a risotto, you've got soup. Same with tomatoes, the whole thing about sell-by dates, obviously with chicken and stuff, you're careful with that and fish, but you smell it, when things are off. And if your tomato is going squashy, just cook it up and make it into a sauce. I hate food waste.
I'm glad you said that. It's a good point, that, because when I was a kid, like yourself, I remember going into pantries, just cold pantries.
Yeah, of course.
And they'd just have a cloth over it.
Yes, of course.
There was no fridge.
Ham or cheese or whatever it was.
And you went, it seems all right, and you sort of,
Still, you would take off take off the mould. My mother doesn't really eat jam, but don't be so silly. Just scrape it off and put it in there. It's fine. Everyone's like, the children are like, it says sell by, but look at it. It's a lettuce. It's firm. It's fine. It's not. I think some supermarkets are not doing sell by dates on things that don't need it, because otherwise things are needlessly thrown away, and it's ridiculous.
Tom, it's been lovely to catch up with you. Honestly, can't recommend your book enough.
Thank you
and
so
it's
much.
Really been, if you enjoy, what I would say is, if you enjoy food, you'll enjoy the book, but the history around the stuff is great. I love that bit, because you think, as you said, it doesn't matter the fact that the recipes are that old. It's the basic thing as we all eat, we all like to eat, and it's fascinating to see what other people lived on all those years ago, and actually not really that as much moved on, has it?
No.
You know, when you think we all like basically the same stuff.
English comfort food's still English comfort
Absolutely.
food. Roasts and pies and all the rest of it. But
Finally, would you send your mum our love? Because I know she's not been very well, and we do miss her.
Well, she's been working too hard, and it's all, touch wood, all fine, and she'll be back.
Missed her at the Royal Variety.
She missed it too. Certain things are highlights, and I know that, and of course Remembrance Sunday, which means so much to so many people. But her own. My grandfather was a war hero, and that means as much. And the variety, of course, is something that's gone on. How long? It's gone on for a long
over
time?
100 years, isn't it?
Wow. Has it?
And in 1912.
1912, so that would have been George V there doing that.
Well, I won't bore you with this, but a friend of mine who, many theatrical background, and what I loved this story about Edward VII, was he wanted the music hall stars to come and do this, thing, and they said, "Oh no, you're far too risque." So we have him to thank for why Variety really took off, because he would go to the Palace Theatre and where the musical stars were, and would be seen in a box. And they thought, well, if it's good enough for the king, it's good enough for the royals. And that's really, what a thing.
Wow, so all those slightly bawdy... they read a wonderful book on that the other day. Yeah. But yes, it was... And they were quite close to the bone, yeah.
But then again, it's no different to the Madonnas of the day, are they?
No, absolutely.
Everybody's done it once, and we've forgotten about it.
It's nothing new. Outrage is nothing new. But yes, anyway, so she's just sort of taking it easy because she didn't take it easy, and now, touch wood, she'll be fine. She's tough. She's tough. She doesn't like not working.
Thank you so much, Tom. An absolute pleasure.
Absolute joy. Thank you very much indeed. A joy. Gosh.